पुन्हा एकदा आपण जावा लँग्वेज आणि जावा लँग्वेज who raised hands? पाठीमागच्या लेक्चरचे स्लाइड्स दाखवा. अच्छा, तर तुम्हाला सी शार्पच्या लेक्चरच्या स्लाइड्स हवेत. ठीक आहे, आपण हे थांबूया आणि सी शार्पचं पुन्हा एकदा लेक्चर जॉईन करूया. जस्ट वेट.
सर आजचं लेक्चर रेकॉर्ड करा.
येस येस येस. ओके ओके ओके, डोंट वरी. माझी स्क्रीन दिसते एव्हरीबडी? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Let us see the C# programming concept. I think you are very much aware of this all. We have studied about the decision making in our last session. The decision making structure we have studied. I think the decision making having two types of structures, selection structure, and second is the iterative structures. So first of all, I think decision making with selection structures we shall study. So we know that in every program we require to take the decisions, or we have to give the more conditions, and those conditions just wait. So we know that there are more statements which can be executed if that conditions will be determined, and it can be true, or optionally if it will be basically it will be false. Then some sort of different statements can be executed as per the condition which is given at the above statements which are actually given by the programmer. So the decision making structures are actually very important among the programming languages. This is the general form of typical decision making structure found in all the most programming languages. We know that there will be a condition, and if that condition will be get true, then in some conditional code will be executed, some statement or multiple statements will be executed, and if that condition will be false, we shall come out from that particular if condition. So this is a common decision making structure here. All the programming languages, most of the programming languages having this type of structure. We know that there are 3-4 if statements. That is the simple if. The second is the if else. Third is a nested if else, and also we know that it is a if else ladder. Moreover, if the if else ladder, if the program size increases, particularly the program becomes very complex to tackle, to define, to again to execute the program. It is very difficult to a programmer if there are multiple if statements. So if inside if there is another if, inside if there is a else, there is again if, maybe there are multiple if inside one if. So it will become more complex to understand that program. So this is very important that we have to move towards the switch which can be tested and with the equality of list of values. So this is the switch statement, as we know that these are all decision making statements. We know that the if condition, the simple if condition, we have already studied. So that will be evaluated. If the condition will be true, then number of statements will be executed. Otherwise, all the statements written after the if will be executed. So this is the if else. If else will have two sides, that is true block statements and false block statements. I think if else also we have studied. There will be a condition here. The flowchart of this condition will be given here, and if that condition will be true, yes side will be executed. There may be one or multiple statements, and those all statements will be executed if that condition will get true. And then it will execute the other code which is written after our if condition. Okay, and then the condition will be true, yes side will be executed. Otherwise, if the condition will be false, no side will be executed. So this will be executed code in else block. So else block is executed here, and all the next statements written after the if else statement will be executed. So this is particularly the if condition at the left side. If test expression will be tested, if it is true, true block of statement or multiple statements will be executed. Otherwise, if this condition will be false, then false block of statements will be executed. And later on, even though we are going inside the true block or false block, the next statements will be executed after any one of the block. So we can go inside one of the block which is executed only one time, that is true or false. So that is the if else statement. The next is the nested if else. We know that this is again the example of C language. We have known about this series of decisions if required. Then nested if else will be used, and nesting means you can use the if else construct in another if else. So here you can say this is the first line, num is equal to 1. Second if statement, num is less than 10. Another if inside outer if is given here, and if num is equal to 1, here you can say the value will be displayed here. Otherwise, the value is greater than 1, it is displayed. And then this if, outer if, has another else here, and this may having the one of the statement, that is the value is greater than 10, for example. So this all is the example of nested if else. If inside if has another else, this outer if has another else, this else may contain another if. So you can just imagine that you can give number of if statements in if part, true block statements, or else part, that is false block statements. So you can insert number of if in another if, in another else, and so on. So this is the nested if else. In the looping, let us see the looping statement. There may be some situations where we can need to execute the block of code or block of statements several number of times. So what can be used several number of times? We can say, if we consider about the payroll system, we have to execute the same loop in every month. Or otherwise, if we are calculating the daily wages of any employees in one factory, so daily wages will calculate on each day of that company or factory, that how many number of employees are actually present in the company, and how many these employees will be paid the payment which is required, and that can be paid to the employee daily on the daily basis. So in this example, you can say the number of statements will be executed sequentially and number of times. So this can be happened with the looping, where the first statement in that function is executed first and followed by the second, and so on. Number of statements we can execute. So programming languages provides the control structures which allows more and more complicated execution paths. So this is the looping statement. For example, you have watching this at the right hand side, the flowchart of that looping statements, that the condition will be available, and if that condition will be get true, again the conditional code, that is the body of the loop, will be executed. It may contains one or more statements, and those statements will be executed, and later again the condition will be tested. Later again, you can say the condition will be tested. Every time the condition will be get true, the body of the loop will be executed. This is having the loop which will be executed n number of times up to the last condition, where the condition is actually available with that particular loop. And if this condition will be get false, then you will come out. You will come out to the next statements which are available with that particular program. That is also important thing. Okay. So this is the looping statement. Here you can say, we know that there are 3 loops. We have already seen about these 3 loops in C language, and we know that these all 3 loops which are available with C language, these are actually available with C#. These are actually available with Java also. So this is very important, that all the statements, all the syntax written in the C, written in the C#, written in the Java, all are similar. So this is very important, that the while loop, for loop, do while loop, those are actually we have seen in the first year, but it will repeat the number of statements or group of statements while particular condition will get true. So in the while loop, we are testing this loop. Firstly, you can say this is an entry control loop. So before executing of the loop body, before executing of the body of the loop, the test condition will be tested, and then if that test condition will be get true, then body of the loop will be executed. In the for loop also, we are executing the sequence of statements where the particularly condition will be tested, and that if that condition will be true, again we are moving towards the body of the loop. On the other part, that the do while loop is executing. At the last, the condition will be tested, but at the first there is no any condition. But it is different than while loop. While loop will be considered as the condition will be tested at the upper side. In the do while loop, the condition will be tested at the end of the loop. Let us see the another loop. We have to see these all loop. That is the for each loop is very important. So C# provides the 4 loops. That is for loop, while loop, do while loop, and for each loop. So for every loop, it will require the different 4 things in common. You can say initialization. First, we have to set the starting point of the loop. Second, we have to test or set the ending point of the loop, that is the condition. Third, iteration, which will provide each level either in the forward or backward direction. So in ascending order or in descending order, iteration will be provided in the condition. And one of the important step in the for loop is a body of the loop, which will provide the valid statements in C#, and that will be executed when the condition will be tested. After the condition will be tested, the body of the loop will be executed in entry controlled loop. We know that this is the syntax of for loop. For loop, which is given as the for loop, it will contain the initializer, that is the initialization of the for loop, the condition, another condition will be tested. This is the last step of our for loop. How many times the body of the loop will be executed, that is the last condition. And the iterator is the particularly a counter which can be executed this loop in number of times. That is, how many steps we can iterate, how many times we can execute this for loop, that will be provided here at the last. So we know that in the looping, we require initialization. In looping, we require to specify the condition. In looping, we require to give the iteration, that is a counting of the counting of the loop, how many times the counting will be done. And lastly, you can say fourth step is a body of the loop, that is the statement 1 or multiple statements. These 4 different parts will execute our loop. So we know that the for loop will have a particularly a model of this looping statement, because it will contain the 4 different parts, that is initializer, condition, iterator, and the hello, can you hear me all?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And next, you can say after the for loop, we know that the for loop is also the entry controlled loop, and the next statement is a while loop. This while loop is also a entry controlled loop. We know that entry control loop will executed, or the condition will be checked at the first level. The entry will be controlled and the while loop will be executed, or for loop will be executed. So this is the syntax of our while loop. While this particular condition will be tested, and this condition will be tested. If this condition will be get true, then and then particularly all the statements written inside this process will be executed. Now here we are not just watching that where is our initialization and where is our iterator. These 2 statements are where it is written. Now the iterator is written inside this, all statements written inside the process, and the initialization will be done before the while loop. So before the while loop, we can initialize the while condition, and the last step of our while loop will be given inside this condition. Then and then the body of the loop will be executed. So this is again entry control loop. The while condition will be get true, then statements written inside this while loop are executed, and at the last statement, one of the statement will be provided is iterator. So iteration will be done. Iteration will be done. That is the iteration will be done first, second, third, and so on. How many times we are moving, or how many times we have to execute the body of the loop, that will be given here. Okay, so the iteration will be given at the last statement of this while loop. Okay, and then you will come out, if this condition will be get false, you will come out from that while loop. Next is our do while loop. Do while loop is exit controller loop. We know that exit control loop will look like this syntax. This syntax is given, that is do. There is no any condition, because it is the exit control loop. We occur only the body of the loop, number of statements, single statement or number of statements written inside this do statement. See here, one or multiple statements written inside the body of the loop, and at the last of this do while loop, there is a condition, that is the while and condition. The condition will be tested at the last. Why it is happened? This means that this do while loop will be executed at least once. At least once this will be executed. Sorry. Hello. You can check your mics and you can mute your mics, Pooja. Okay. So
Sorry,
this
sir.
will happen. Hello. Yes. Anybody wants to ask something? Okay. Thank you. So this is the exit control loop, where the condition will be tested at the last. If this condition will be true, again the do while statements will be executed. If this condition will be true, again the do while, number of times where these statements will be executed. At the last moment, if this condition will be false, you will come out to the next part of our statements. Okay, so next part will contains the number of C# statements which are written in this. Okay, next, this is the for each. This is the last loop, but very important because it is given in only in C#, because this is a new statement, new loop statement, which is available in C#. So this is specially designed for accessing the values of an array and collection. What we know that array and collection are similar things, mostly similar things. So most of the time when we can collect the array elements, we can use this for each statement, where we can study, or you can get these or array elements from the particularly collection of these statements. See here, for syntax of this for each, that is for each type, we have to give the type variable in. In is a very important thing. In is our keyword, and this is the collection or array you can give here, and the number of statements. So here you can say for each and every array element, the number of statements will be executed. See again, for each loop, in the for each loop, for every element of the array, the number of statements will be executed. So this is very important thing. Okay, so how many times, for example, array will contain 10 elements, so 10 times these all statements will be executed. So for example, array will contain 1, 2, 3 and so on up to 10. If we give the array element 1, the number of statements written inside this for each statements, which is a body of the loop, will be executed. So first time body of the loop will be executed for value 1, that is a variable 1. For variable 2, the statements will be executed. For variable 3, number of statements will be executed. So this will be done up to the array size. Okay, so you can see this is the how the for each statement or loop will work. You can say here you can see here the in keyword used along with for each loop is used to iterate over the iterable item. The in keyword selects an item from the iterable item on each iteration and store it in the variable element. So every time the each iterable item will be selected and the number of times in keyword will be stored in variable. On the first iteration, the first item of iterable item is stored in the element. On the second iteration, the second element is selected and so on. This will be done up to the last iteration. The number of times the for each loop will execute is equal to the number of elements in the array. How many times for each loop will be executed? The number of elements available in the array will be depend on the particularly the number of times this for each loop will be executed. So array size is very important here. Here is one of the flowchart given here for the for each loop, how it will work. So elements will be given in the array, elements remaining in the array or collection. So how many elements may be? Maybe 10 elements. Again, it is true that first element will be available, then assign next element in collection to the local variable, and the body of the for each loop will be executed. Then for the second element, this will be executed. For third element, this will be executed. For fourth element, this will be executed. This will be done up till to the last element. This array will be having 10 values. So the value will be 11, it will come out because the condition will be get false. So after the false, it will execute for each loop, and just below for each loop will be get executed. Like this for each loop will work. Okay. The next, you can say the example of for each. Here you can see using system namespace loop statement, for each loop statement, the class name, this is the program name for each loop, and the main public static void main string arguments. This is the particularly first statement in the our C# program. Character array, which is stored my array having the HELLO. Each and every element is different in this array. This is a character array, and this is a character array which is having a single value 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this will be done 5 times the particularly for each statements. So character array, my array will be given, and every time this character, every character of this array will be written on the console. So write line console.write line will execute this character. Every character of this word, that is my array, will be written on the console. Like this, for example, you can say here H E L L O. Like this, the execution of this program will be held. Okay, so this will be written on each and every line, not to the next to the edge. Okay, if you are giving here only write statement, console.write in bracket ch, without including line, that will give some sort of a, if you are only inserting write, not inserting line, that will give HELLO, like this. So this will be happened with the for each statement. So both are different. The output of this program is the particularly, this is the written on the upper side, that is H on one line, E on second line, L on third line, L on fourth line, and last O on fifth line. So this will be happened. If you are inserting the only write statement, not inserted line, then and then this type of hello will be printed on the console. Okay, so that will be your program of or example of for each statement. Okay, so all of you, thank you very much. This, we know that the break statement and continue statement, we know that break statement terminates with the loop, which switch statement transfers execution of the statement immediately following